Howdy, listeners. As we all know, planet Earth has 7.5 billion people, and 7.4 billion of those people have small businesses. Now, to be fair, numbers that size can be hard to envision, and to be even fairer, most of what I just said is entirely made up. But I'll tell you what isn't made up. Keap. Keap is the all-in-one client management software designed specifically for small businesses. Keap takes the most annoying and laborious parts of running a small business and metaphorically tosses them into the sun. Stop grinding yourself to death with busy work and repetitive tasks. Let Keap integrate your customer follow-ups, messaging automation, next-level appointment setting, and so much more. Head over to Keap.com and start your free trial of Keap Grow, Keap Pro, or for those looking for something beefier, talk to one of our coaches about Infusionsoft, the product that started it all. More business, less work, that's Keap. Just go to Keap.com to start your free trial. That's Keap.com. One more time, that's Keap.com. If you were to stand casually, is that okay? Stand
like
casually.
this? Mm-hmm. It's hard to stand casually.
It is. Once someone tells you, you're like, it's uncasual now.
Am I doing it right?
Yeah, you should be good.
Perfect.
Also, we're already recording. So that's how
Perfect. And also, I don't know. Whatever. I might shift. And,
You'll be okay.
yeah.
We'll
He's doing
figure
a
it out.
TikTok, so we'll be
Perfect.
Right on. So howdy, everybody. This week, it's Derek is filling in for Scott, who is currently doing other things elsewhere right now, and that's his.
Hopefully cool things that he can come back from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought of that.
Well, do we want to get into that? So if you're listening to this and the world hasn't ended, cool. Because things are weird right now.
Mhm.
Let's just be real about it. Things are a little weird. We're
recording like there's a future.
yeah.
However, it may not be one where you can travel anywhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We might still be fine, but you also might have to cancel some vacation plans.
So Scott, if you've made it back to the home office, we're glad you made it back, buddy.
Good luck to all of the folks from Keap who are currently on spring break vacations with their families to places that are not America. And that's as deep as I feel like I want to get into it today. So I'm Derek Harju. Our guest, as usual, is
Crystal Heuft.
And this is Small Biz Buzz. And this week we are talking with Odeen Domingo. Do you want to introduce yourself, Odeen?
Yeah, sure. You already said my name. Thank you so much. But I'm Odeen. My wife and I started and run CO+HOOTS Coworking in Phoenix, Arizona. First coworking space in Phoenix. We founded it in 2010. Yeah, that's we do all kinds of things. Not only are we a coworking space, we're definitely more than that, right? We do a lot of educational programming, really focused on what we call untapped communities or emerging communities that don't necessarily may have the access or the opportunity to for contacts that may help them in their entrepreneurial journey. And so we try to help them navigate through that.
You guys have a slogan that's up in your break room. Do you remember it offhand?
Yes. So we are definitely a purpose-driven workspace. What's graphically designed on one of our walls in the break room says entrepreneurs, and you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but that's what it says. Entrepreneurs, no matter your gender, socioeconomic status, your sexual orientation,
age, economic background. Yeah, the idea being that like your existence in the circumstances under which you exist in this world should have very little bearing on whether or not you can be a successful
The
entrepreneur.
idea is come as you are.
correct. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, that CO+HOOTS is a safe place to launch, fail, and scale. And when I say who you are, like no matter who you are and where you come from, oh man, I don't know if I could say it. I was going to say, unless you're a Nazi. If you're a Nazi, you are not welcome. But
Sure.
everyone else, perfect, 100%.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this podcast is
Nazi free.
Yeah.
not not a fan. Let's go out on a limb and
I
say
would
not
go
a
out-
fan.
I would go out on a limb and say against
Yeah.
Nazi behavior.
I feel like we're at that place in 2020 when we can all agree that Nazis are bad.
yeah.
Wasn't sure if this is a family-friendly podcast. I could say things like that.
It's we try to keep a clean tag, so please no swearing. But other than that,
sure.
yeah.
But I've also sworn. So you're going to
You
survive no matter what happens at the end of this.
you get one.
No.
At the end, you're
Everyone gets one.
basically, you're basically going to make it at the end of this podcast, regardless of what you say.
Right. So the
We
reason,
only ask cool people.
yeah. We've had a lot of cool people so far.
We have.
Oh, I'm sorry you broke that streak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm here.
So
You're welcome.
Part of the reason, aside from the fact that I personally love Cahoots, although I'm biased, part of the reason that we have you here today has to do with your adorable child.
Oh
And,
yeah. Oh my God, I was gonna say nepotism, but yes, I mean that's
Yeah.
it still relates to
Also
my adorable
nepotism.
child.
Yeah. For those who why would you know this? Odeen and I are effectively cousins. If you look up my headshot and Odeen's headshot, you're going to have questions. But we're effectively cousins. And Odeen is also an amazing dad to an amazing daughter who
Thank you.
who
Likewise.
is so amazing that she's actually I'll just say it out loud, is part of the reason that I have a daughter. Like your child.
Well, I was just going to ask, is she as cute as your daughter? Because if she is, then those are two cuties.
Yeah.
His daughter's really cute too. I've seen her on Instagram and she's
amazing.
adorable.
Oh my gosh.
She looks like she
She's
has
a
such a
fireball.
personality.
Mhm.
Yeah. She
Oh my
looks
God.
adorable.
I love her so much.
Yeah. Your kid was the first child that I was ever like, oh, babies are cool. Like that was the first time that had ever occurred to me.
That's a lot of pressure on her shoulders to be that cool.
You know, she just rolls with it, right? Like
Yeah.
the only thing she carries is her bag and swagger. So
That's
that's
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
That's all she should carry.
The reason we ask you here is you have a massive day-to-day workload, and yet you are also a full-time father. And we wanted to talk to you about how you balance entrepreneurship and running a business with being a parent, and some of your insights on that. So if you could talk a little, I'd love for you to talk a little about how when you guys were first talking about having kids, or when it was obvious you were going to have a kid, what were some of the discussions you guys had about, okay, what happens to the business now? What happens to our plans now? That sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to go back, and this is a little personal, but we do want to talk about this because it's something that not a lot of people talk about, right? So even before we had our daughter Ada, we really struggled to have children. I've always wanted to be a father. Growing up, I just come from a big family. We're very loving and supporting, and Jenny, my wife, really teases us about that. It's like, what is wrong with your family? You like being around each other, and why are you hugging each other all the time?
Yeah, we
Strange.
roasted you 2 weeks ago. Jenny and I roasted you over how not messed up your family is.
It's a burden that I'll carry for the rest of my life.
What do you mean you guys like each other? Why when you hang out are you all smiling and having a good time?
Exactly. Like what is this? So before we had Ada, we did have a miscarriage about a year before having Ada, which kind of was, it's just devastating, right? It's just devastating on just the dynamic of not only your family, but because Jenny and I are in business with together and with each other, and the things that we do with Cahoots and a couple other things that we do, whether it's on the side or along with Cahoots, it just kind of rocks everything,
For sure.
right? And so I just wanted to talk about that because, it does happen. Not every family is perfect. Not everything that happens is perfect. So that's kind of just part of the story of when we did have Ada, what we wanted to get out of this life and out of this family, right? The business and the businesses are obviously important, right? That's how we feed ourselves. That's how we feed our daughter. That's how we make a living. That's how we are able to do the things that that we want to do, which is not only, the extracurricular things that we do as a family and as people and in life, but the impact that we want to make in the community, right? Like we only have one. So what can we do with that life? What can we do with this family, with this daughter? What are the things we are teaching her with the things that we do in our business that we are able to, maybe she, she isn't reading at the level that she is, but we're not worried about that stuff, right? We're worried about whether or not she is growing up to be an actual, caring and empathetic human being. So those are the kind of conversations that we talk about because it was so hard. It was so hard for us to even have her. And then even when we were pregnant, when Jenny was pregnant, those 9 months, because of Jenny's placenta was, in front, we didn't even really get to feel Ada move around. And that was, oh my God, that was so hard to do that because, we were always worried.
Yeah.
Every single day was hard for us. We had to get like a heartbeat monitor just to make sure that she's okay. Because, we desperately wanted this child to be with us and to grow up and to be raised. So when we talk about the conversations that we're having with, okay, what was this life dynamic going to be like? Okay, one, it's, everything, whatever we're going to do it in, in the way that it's going to make impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it's going to be us with our daughter as well as our businesses, and we knew that we are so into our business as business owners, and not only taking care of our own business, but because COOHOOTS is a co-working space, and because of the programming we have, and because the purpose that we want to deliver and everything else, we're also kind of responsible for other people as well, because we have all this programming, we have all of these communities that we see, that we also not necessarily that they need help or anything like that, but we're there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about all those things, which is a lot, and there's a lot to pull together, but when we look at how we're so into our business, but also having a family, that we just, we talk about just integrating that. Like, how are we going to integrate that life?
Mm-hmm.
And so Ada goes to school, yes, but when she's out of school, she spends time at COOHOOTS. She literally grew up in COOHOOTS. When her first 4 months, she kind of stayed at home, but after that, like, she was there almost every single day. She would take naps. People would care for her. We had members at, when she was very little, we were very scared of clipping her nails. But there was
terrifying.
I know, and I was like, I don't want to hurt her. And she's so little. But we had members / friends who was like, oh, I've done that. I got it. I'm a boss at it. And so we just would have members like, Amy, she needs her nails clipped, and clip her nails. So it just integrating her into that, integrating her into community, again, just teaching her those lessons of, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and surrounding yourself within a community where we're all living our own lives. We all have our own projects. We all have our own companies, but that doesn't mean we can't help each other. And so that back and forth, and having her grow up in a environment like that was important to us, because that's obviously one of the things when we look at what we want to do with our lives. That's what we want to do, is to make sure people find their community, make sure that when they're within that community that they're affecting each other's lives and impacting each other's lives, obviously in a positive way.
I just want to say I'm sorry for your loss, but also I want to celebrate the point of view you took from that loss. Like, I just recently had friends that had a miscarriage, and it's not easy. You see good people that want something that other people, don't even want and sometimes get. And it's like crazy. It's not easy to go through. But I think it's really cool to hear how you've actually used that to look at your family and make sure that that's what comes first. So just wanted to address that, because I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, she's like our little miracle baby.
That's awesome.
So I'm sure Derek has witnessed me, like, oh my God, anytime I could be with her, anytime she's around me, I won't like let her go. It's like, oh, she wants to get out. But she can't, so too bad.
And that actually leads really well into, so you work in an entrepreneurial space. You work in a sector where your day isn't 9 to 5. Right? You can kind of set your schedule, but your schedule is based on other things that are outside of your control. And so with that sort of hectic schedule, how do you balance your time being a father and being in charge of not only being an entrepreneur yourself, but all these other people's entrepreneurial missions? Like, how do you, when it's 5 o'clock and the plumbing goes out or something at the co-working space, but Ada has soccer practice, what happens then?
Yeah, and that was also part of your first question. So I apologize for going 10 minutes without even addressing that. But thank you for reining me in.
He's good at that.
Yeah. It's I have. I live and die by my calendar, right? And that wasn't always the case. That's something I had to learn as, we come up with our business and all the things that we want to do. But now I literally live and die by my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. Or if it's not so we use a task management system called Asana. Ding, hopefully that's a thing where like Asana sends me some money because I mention it all the time. You're welcome, Asana. And if that task isn't there, then it's likely not going to get done. As Derek has said, there's so many things that are, firing off at once, right? Maybe there's something wrong with the space. God forbid the internet goes down, or again, a plumbing issue or whatever, or the, 4 or 5 back-to-back meetings. And then, I got to pick up Ada, and then yes, it means she has soccer practice or gymnastics, which is tonight. It's you just do what you can do. And I've had to live with that. You have to live with that because otherwise you're going to go crazy. Otherwise, the only thing you're going to do is work and not take care of the other things, right? Like I was actually having this conversation with Jenny the other day where it's like, okay, it's hard for me to do everything I want to do for work and do everything I want to do for her and do everything with Ada, right? Like I wake up at 6. I'm the one who prepares Ada's breakfast. I'm the one who makes sure she changes. And then because if you guys don't know my wife is a powerhouse. She's a superwoman. She does a lot of things for a lot of people. And so
in the community
and everything else. And so for me, it's like I can do all that stuff I do for work, but also I need to do all this stuff for my family and let just Jenny like at least get some semblance of rest. So she wakes up at 5 minutes before we leave the house. And then I just, got to do everything I need to do. And at 5 p.m., I pick up Ada, we go home she goes to gymnastics or whatever extracurricular activities she has. I cook dinner, make sure everyone eats. And then after dinner, it's like 10 minutes of playtime or 10 minutes of reading. And then we're like in bed. And I go to bed at 9:30, right? And
this all sounds very familiar.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it does.
Like the difference you learn as a dad that the difference between, especially if you're a dad who takes on some non-gender stereotypical roles, which I think we both do in a lot of ways because both of our wives are,
and to be frank, all men and women should take on non-gender roles.
Correct.
Because there's a lot you learn by stepping outside of what people think you should be doing. So I think it's great you both do that. Yeah. But more of you men out there, you should be doing the same thing.
By the way, I want to be clear, happily.
Yeah.
Happily,
yes.
Oh
my God. I love doing all that. Oh,
yeah. I hear you talk about your family right now. It's definitely happily. Yeah. I'm just saying it's good to do that, I think.
Yeah.
It's good for me to get out and pull the weeds every once in a while. Do people expect me to do it? No. But I think it's good to step outside of the gender roles because we're all kick-ass and we can all do a bunch of things we didn't think we could.
Right.
Although the weeds sometimes win. I'm not going to lie.
I gave up and hired some. Or actually, let's be clear. Reaffirming what we just talked about. Dulce called a gardener and was like, neither of us are dealing with these weeds, so I'm going to pay someone and get it done.
Yeah, I pay someone to get it done most of the time now too.
Yeah. And then going back of just like what does that day-to-day look like, right? Like there's so much things to do. There's so many tasks at hand. There's so many programs that we want to do. There's so many educational resources that we can provide. I get tons and tons of emails a day, and so just trying to get to as much as I can get to that are at each level, right? Like at the like the ground level of all the little things that need to be taken care of, right? From that to the middle level of the sales process, because I also do things for our we don't have a sales team, and I don't really like calling it a sales team because we don't sell our space. People either select in or they select out. We are who we are, and that's how we're able to cultivate our community that way. And then up to the strategy, right? As long as I'm hitting each and every level and things are still going, and now we have actually a pretty awesome team for Cahoots and able to delegate some things, and make sure the training has been done. And making sure that they're okay, and then obviously they have questions. And so as long as I'm hitting each and every level while still being a good husband, which I don't know if I'm really good at that. You might want to ask Jenny. I'm still being a good father. Just try to get to all the things you get to. Some deadlines are obviously more critical than others. So setting priorities.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, how do you, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I've spoke to, probably a lot that you've spoke to, have a lot of what you're talking about right now. It's so much to get done. And then you also have a family. So how do you establish more priority? Like, how do you bucket those things out to make sure you're keeping the bare necessities for yourself met? So like, what things do you look for to determine what things are a priority?
Yeah. No, so before we started Cahoots, Jenny and I were in the journalism industry. So deadlines, right? Deadlines were everything to us. Mm-hmm. For me, I was a little bit more of a procrastinator because, I was a writer or a journalist, and we gather the information in a day. The newspaper needs to print like at 7 p.m. So our deadline's at 5 p.m. Mm-hmm. So we write 3 articles a day off of this one event. And so we're very good at, the last 3 hours, just, doing the best we can, but obviously we're just busting content out, right? And just doing our work. And so when we think about, okay, what are the priorities? It's deadlines, right? That's why we have Asana Ding. That's why we have those management systems and everything else. When we look at that, as you guys probably do at Keap as well, obviously those team stand-ups and everything else, and where we update each other and we set each other's priorities. Maybe my top 3 things aren't actually the top 3 things that need to be done that day. And so as a team, when we stand up, we talk about that. Obviously, we don't have all the time in the world, but we say our top 3 things. If something needs to change there, then we can change it. Yeah. If we need to pivot in a certain area, then we'll do that. And so looking at the deadlines, looking at what's coming up, looking at what we need to get out, that's just how we kind of set just our priority level.
So like Derek was saying, sometimes we'll say the internet goes out versus the plumbing, because hopefully it's not plumbing. But yeah, the internet can level a building these days, right? If the internet went out here, we'd all go home. What's the point of being here?
Yeah, just shut the lights
out. So if the internet were to go out, and it's not like just a simple reset, how would you determine, like, if you looked at that kind of problem that pops up? Because problems are popping up all day, every day for entrepreneurs. And everyone thinks their problem or their issue is the most important. So if something pops up that's not on your task list, it's not on the calendar, how do you assess, does this take priority over what I already have on my plate? Like, what's the thoughts that go through your mind to determine? I'm sure it all happens very quickly for you, but what are those things? And like, how do you evaluate that?
Yeah, for sure. When you look at just the basic level, right, the basic needs that people have, right? Internet, mm-hmm. plumbing. If we don't take care of that, especially as a building, as a co-working space, we just don't take care of those needs. They don't care if you connected them to, mm-hmm. This big project that they might get $10,000 a month on. Like, if their internet goes down, they're not able to respond to that project. Right. So any of those basic needs, if they are crumbling or something goes wrong, like, we just take care of them right away. It's just all hands on deck. And all those things have happened, right? Like, right. CenturyLink, their node goes down. It's not our fault, but we're responsible for the people who are using, our amenities, that are using the things that, we are providing them. And so we do what, we have a process for that, who we go to, the message that we put out to our community, and then the numbers that we have to call and the steps that we have to take. So we, of course, it's sad when you have a process, that means that, you've had to deal with that right. before. But at least when you have that, right, like that those are just the steps that you take. So if setting those priorities, just looking at the basic needs, and if those go down, then like, it's all hands on deck. We have a shower at Cahoots, and one one day I remember for some reason the water started, to back up from the drain, and it flooded like one of our hallways, went in the kitchen and everything else. It was like, oh well, I can't send this email to a prospective office lead because we're about to go swimming. So it's like throw the papers all over over my shoulder and go in and do what I need to do.
It seems to me like, looking at both when you speak about your family and about Cahoots, it seems to me like how you really are able to stay grounded to both of these is, I think you have a mission and purpose to each of these things. You have a mission and purpose to what you want your family to be. You have a mission and purpose of who you're serving and what you want Cahoots to be. So I think like when you keep going back, I can see you working through it in your head. And it's almost like you're asking yourself, is this going to affect our main purpose, as a family? Is this going to affect our main purpose as a business owner? And I think that's what aligns. Clayt speaks about mission, values, purpose all the time around here as well. And I think if you're really aligned to what the purpose is of your life, your goal here at work, your goal as a family, they actually seem very aligned. So you've created a business that's around the way you feel about your life, So I think if you can do that as a business owner, you can cut through some of the BS and you can actually keep what's important at the forefront. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm right about what I'm saying, but it seems like when you are thinking about these things that take priority, your family or at Cahoots, you stand firm in who you are and what you're trying to accomplish in both places. And you can quickly assess that and move forward because you know who you are.
Yeah, no, that is definitely on point. I just, again, had this conversation with Jenny where, we're so into the business. We're so into all the little things that happen. And so there are sometimes, we're human, right? We have feelings and everything else. And, we get fired up on some things. And then sometimes when, Jenny gets fired up with certain things, I have to talk to her and be like, this isn't hurting, what we do as a business, really. This isn't hurting our family situation. And sometimes, this isn't hurting our bottom line. So really, if we look at that, you get perspective, right? Like we could just let that go.
Right.
Just let it go. We don't have the time. We don't have the headspace. We don't have the emotional capacity to hold on to those things with all the things that we're trying to do as a company, all the things we're trying to do as an organization and as a family. Like if it's not hurting going back to just our basic needs as, human beings and people that what we want to do with our lives, all those things, it's just noise. It's just noise. You just shut that out. We only have, again, I go back to just having one life, right? Like the blocks that we put in front of our face don't exist. It only exists when we put it there. And so when we clear that out and we just think of what we want to do as a human being and like impact the 5-foot radius around us and whoever else is in there, I think at least that's how I try to think of things, and I had to learn that. But as I think about how I want to live my life, that's kind of just how I go through my priorities.
That's awesome advice.
Very cool. So I think it's about time for a break. Do you want to kick us off into the next segment, Crystal?
Yeah. Well, Derek runs to the other mic to go record with Ducey the worst business ideas in history. Hang tight, guys. We'll be back right after you do that. Right, Derek?
Yep.
Get running.
Howdy, folks. I'm Derek Harju.
And I'm Ducey Van Dusen.
And this is Worst Business Ideas in History,
the show where we look back at some of the most brutal missteps, failures, and flops in consumer history.
and make fun of it.
But also learn something.
Nope. It says in my contract I don't have to learn.
Fine. The rest of us will learn something, and you can just mock people's misfortune.
Sounds good.
Welcome to the Worst Business Ideas in History.
Hey, everybody. This is Derek Harju.
And Ducey Van Dusen.
And today we're going to be talking about Kellogg's breakfast mates.
All right. Is that like a breakfast mate? Is that like somebody that you eat breakfast with?
That would be fun. I'm a big fan of breakfast in general, even though like especially on the weekends, like I love a Sunday breakfast. I love going to breakfast with my friends, making it last all like I'll have I'm usually a person who's like, come on, we got to go get stuff done, but like when it comes to breakfast, I'm like, Let's hang out. Let's have a leisurely Parisian cafe experience.
Yeah, exactly. Feels sophisticated.
Yeah. Let's make these waffles last until noon.
There you go.
The Kellogg's Breakfast Mates. I'm a big fan of cereal. Most of us at Keap are inundated with cereal, whether we're fans or not. There's a lot of cereal. The Kellogg's Breakfast Mates was an attempt to merchandise an existing product. So most of you remember as kids, you would get those multi-packs of cereal, and they would come with like Frosted Flakes and Fruit Loops and
all the tiny little boxes, the little mini boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were rad right up until you got down to like the plain Rice Krispies and Wheaties.
Yeah.
And then you would make your parents buy you another multi-pack, and eventually you had a cupboard that was just filled with tiny boxes of Wheaties because no one would eat them.
Are these still even a thing? I'm trying to think the last time I've seen these. They're probably at the grocery store and I just walk right by them. But
yeah, they are. I'm 90% sure that I saw a multi-pack in the store. Okay. And I was still like, why do you put I'm like, good, gross. Why do you put that in there? There's always one in there.
I do remember when I think it must have been when I was a kid that they first kind of came out with these, because we got them a few times and it was just kind of, we would do it for trips and stuff, but it just seemed fun to like have these little mini boxes of exactly the one you wanted. Like you said, then there's the leftover ones that nobody wants, but
yeah. And that's like, and I mean, that's not a terrible idea. Little boxes of cereal, like people like little versions of things. They're adorable and they're like useful and like they're single use. So especially if you have kids, you're just like, here's a box of cereal. That is the amount of cereal you're going to get. I'm currently busy with other things this morning because
and you now have a tiny cardboard box that you can play with when you're done eating.
Sure. Carry this box of Cocoa Krispies around the house. We will definitely get ants, but I'll get 10 minutes of peace.
Worth it.
So the Kellogg's Breakfast Mates, not super far away from this idea. They just took it a step further. So what you've got is a little hobby kit. Like Lunchables. You remember Lunchables?
Yeah. Those are definitely still a thing. My kids always want those when there's going on a trip or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember begging my parents for Lunchables. They bought them for me exactly once and then never again. Maxima, can you come out of there? For those of you, I'm not yelling at my toddler, but I'm projecting to my toddler because she's across the room. She's across the room and she's about to unplug the router. Maxima, can you not unplug the thing that makes this podcast possible? Come here. Maxima, can you come inside here? Can you come inside? Can you come inside? Can you come over here, please? Okay, she's moved away from the router at least. So, moving right back in like nothing happened. So the Breakfast Mates, what they are is they're a single serving of cereal in its own little plastic bowl. And then right next to it is a little single serving of milk, basically shelf-stable milk, which is a thing that is more prominent in other countries than it is in America.
Yeah, I spent some time in Spain, and you'd buy boxes of milk, and they would just be sitting on the shelf, not refrigerated.
Yeah, totally. Which is like apparently I've been to Japan and stuff. It's a super ubiquitous thing in other parts of the world. They're like, why do you bother refrigerating milk? You can just put it through this secondary pasteurizing or whatever process and just stick it on the shelf and it's fine. And we as Americans apparently are like, no, gross. We want our milk cold and perishable.
I want it straight from the cow. I don't have my milk any other way.
So it's like a little, like you've got everything you need there. It comes with a little spoon. You pour the milk in. You got your little bowl. It's good to go. It sounds actually like a great idea in concept. Yeah. Well, the problem was they didn't account for Americans only wanting things a specific way, which is to say you buy a few of these little Breakfast Mates and you bring them home and your kids are like, oh, okay, cool. This looks cool. Well, then they use it in practice and it creates a situation where they have a choice of one or two things. You can put all of these little packs in the refrigerator so that you still have cold milk, which is what Americans are used to. Yeah. And you also have cold cereal now. Or you put it in the cupboard and now you have room temperature milk, which most Americans find abhorrent. So That was the biggest problem, is just people thought it was gross to either eat cold cereal or drink warm milk.
And I guess, it doesn't, it might solve like a portability issue. So again, kind of the travel thing, but at home, it's probably not that big a deal to just, pour yourself some milk.
No. And here's the thing. They definitely accounted for this. They're like, oh, this will be fun. Like kids will put it together. These people had clearly never seen a child try to make a bowl of cereal for themselves. If you tell any kid under the age of 10, go make a bowl of cereal for yourself, what you actually just told them is, go spill cereal all over the counters and the floor, and then proceed to spill milk all the way from the refrigerator to the bowl, around the bowl, and then all the way back to the refrigerator. And then don't clean up any of it.
We recently, we recently had a child accidentally drop a full container of milk, and those can crack when dropped hard enough, apparently.
Yep.
So that was fun.
So in practice, people would bring these things home and they're like, here you go. And they turn around 2 seconds later and they've just they've had a breakfast explosion at their counter. The other problem was they were like, oh, well, people don't like lukewarm milk, so we'll put these in the refrigerator section. Well, people don't look for cereal in the refrigerator section. So when they're buying cereal, especially if you go to the store and if you're a parent, a lot of times when you go to the store, the child wants to come with you so they can pick out stuff, and mostly just, they want to hang around mom and dad and do grown-up errands. Well, when you pick out cereal, you're in the cereal aisle. And then once you're out of the cereal aisle, cereal decisions have stopped being made.
Exactly. There's you come across one of those end caps with stuff on it. No, we already got the cereal.
And the other people are like, well, maybe they'll see it in the refrigerator section and they'll buy it there. It's like, no, that's not how that works. What happens is you go through the cereal aisle with the kid. The kid picks out the cereal that is either the worst for them, which means it's delicious, or at least when I was a kid, or the toy has or it has a toy inside it. Right. I don't even know if cereal comes with toys anymore. I'm super old, but they didn't. They just. It was I genuinely think that this was a good idea that suffered from just a death by 1,000 cuts, where it confused people. People probably bought it once for their kids, and then they were like, I'm never getting you this chore creator for me again.
I wonder, obviously the warm milk side of it, and then if you don't want warm milk, you got a bunch of storage space in your fridge for cereal. But I wonder, this seems like this could have been a good way to introduce people to shelf stable milk, but it seems like some other introduction, some other sea change would have had to happen before for this to be successful.
I absolutely agree. And also, I think that actually opens up an interesting question for a later show, which is I would kind of like to do a couple of episodes about products that should be successful in America and are not. Because
I already know it's
milk
at the top of my list on that one.
Oh, what is it? Shelf-stable milk?
It's not. Well, no, that's a good one, as well as unbleached eggs. But in these times that we find ourselves in, yeah, I see that look on your face. Unbleached eggs.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I didn't know they bleached eggs.
Oh yeah, that's why they're all white. Otherwise it would be a mix of things, of white and brown and whatnot. Yeah,
that makes sense.
They bleach them, so then they have to be refrigerated. It takes all the salmonella off the outside. In a lot of other countries, they don't take the salmonella offside. They do a wash, but not this strong bleaching wash. So they're shelf stable. You don't have to refrigerate your eggs in other countries. But you do got to be careful with how you handle the outside.
Oh, okay.
That's a whole other tangent. But yeah, I was going to say bidets are another one that would be a great episode.
I want to talk about, here's the thing. Given our current adventure that we're going through as a world, I think that you may see bidets become adopted on a much larger scale than we've seen previously in America.
I'll tell you what, we've been planning on getting one for a long time, and that made us pull the trigger.
Yeah, we have them in our house. We've been obsessed with them ever since we came back from Japan. Not on the topic of this show at all, but if anybody at home buy a bidet for your house, it will be super weird the first 3 times you use it. And after that, you will never go to the bathroom the same.
Well, on that note, Kellogg's breakfast mates.
Well, I've been Derek Harju.
This is Ducey Van Dusen.
And we will talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Keeping ever-expanding client info straight, sending the same emails hundreds of times, scheduling and rescheduling appointments over and over. Who enjoys this nonsense? No one, except my cousin Brent, and Brent is the absolute worst. Keap is the premier all-in-one CRM. Just head over to keap.com, that's Keap.com, and start your free trial today. Get the busy work out of the way so you can focus on what's important and make your small business grow with Keap. Start your free trial at Keap.com. That's Keap.com. More business, less work. That's Keap. Well, we're back from the break. We've been talking about food for an indeterminate amount of time, and
Too long, probably.
we've got our guest Odeen Domingo from CO+HOOTS Coworking, and so I wanted to ask, as an entrepreneur, that's not going to trend at all. Nobody's going to say that word again.
Just put a hashtag in front and it'll start.
What are we talked about how to balance being an entrepreneur while you're a dad, but what about the opposite? How do you, when you're presented with all these challenges of running a business, how do you maintain being a good father? Like, what are some of the challenges you've experienced, and what are the solutions you've found?
Yeah, for sure. And I apologize. I forgot to say thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very nice. I appreciate it.
Ours.
And then instead of entrepreneur dads, I don't know if I just came up with it or if it was out in the ether and I saw it. But we actually say dadpreneurs.
Okay.
Ooh.
So dadpreneurs. I was in a.
It does have a ring.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It rolls off the tongue
It
a little
does.
better. I was actually a speaker at Phoenix Startup Week a couple of weeks ago, where I came up just with the idea because they asked me to come up with a topic. I was like, I don't know, being a dad and an entrepreneur, I think I could talk about that. So I actually did a panel on this exact topic, and I had Jeremy Whitaker, who also has his own business, but he's also a Mesa City Council person, and Mike Alonzo, who has started up a couple of different companies as well, and they have their own children, and it was great. So we talked about being a dadpreneur, life lessons, and how do we be a dad while still doing all the things we want to do with our companies. And I go back again to the calendar and Asana. Like, we use that for our business, but we also literally use that for our life. Bills that need to get paid. Get-togethers that we committed to, all the things that as a parent, as a dad, that I need to do, like bringing Ada to soccer or gymnastics, all of that is in my calendar. We have a personal, a project that we call personal in Asana, and we list all of that out. And so just so that you can, again, like, you only have so much headspace for all of these things. If you can just like place it somewhere else that will just remind you the 20 minutes before you actually have to do that, is something that that you can hack and that you can do it. And so a lot of times, even I schedule playtime with Ada. Jenny does that as well. When Ada doesn't have school that day, we schedule on our calendars, like Jenny and Ada time, or mommy and Ada time, or daddy and Ada time. Like, this is my turn, this is your turn. And sometimes we forget that she doesn't have school. We have to remind each other. It's like, hey, it says on your calendar she's off tomorrow, and it's you're taking her to the science museum. So it's things like that where as an entrepreneur, again, you're just doing so many different things, but obviously you have your own life and your own family. So what are the things that you have a process for business that you can bring it into your family life? Like, and if that works for your business, why wouldn't it work for your family?
Right.
And so we've done that, and that's how we can do that. And we've also, again, just scheduling, and it's not just that, right? It's not just, it's my turn to do it. I scheduled playtime for Ada, so I guess I got to go do that, right? Like, it's more of this is our time to be with her because, yes, we work nights and yes, we work weekends. And, a lot of times I feel, really bad and really awful that I'm not able to spend the kind of time, I want to with her. And so when that happens, like I'm all in, right? Like this is it. Maybe sometimes I am checking, my phone for messages or making sure I'm not missing a call on my calendar. That just happens. But when I'm with her or I'm with, obviously as a family altogether, not just her, but with Jenny as well, like just be present and all in. And there's lots of things that you can do as well when that happens, right? Like you've had a long day. You're tired. Maybe you can't read. I can't read to her because I'm tired, and she's just going crazy. So some of the things that I learned to do is how to parent horizontally. Like you're tired. And so what games can you play with her that you're still spending quality time with her, but you're actually resting while she's like still, having QT with you?
To be clear, when you say playing horizontally, that's not a buzzword. You literally mean your body is in a prone plane.
Physically.
Okay, thank you, because I thought it was a parenting word I did not understand.
Yeah.
I'm not a parent, so I was like, what is parenting horizontally? I've heard of the helicopter parent.
You're literally talking about laying down on the floor and being like, oh, we're also playing.
Yes, for sure.
Like
so
when you were sleeping in your Instagram post a while back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot.
Right.
Max plays on me a lot when I'm sleeping.
Yeah, so it's all like, tuck daddy into bed or daddy's...
That's my favorite game right now.
Oh, yeah.
Max is super into it's time for daddy to sleep. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do this. There's, she's turning 6 in May. And so it's a little bit more beneficial for me now, but it's, having her balance on my back and walking around where when she was doing it at 3, I was like, this is fine, I guess. But now when she has a little bit of weight on her, it's like, oh, this is amazing. So not only are you getting the benefits of being a great father, but you're also getting a great massage, which is amazing. Or we'll play like ninja games where, I'm lying down, closing my eyes, I swear I'm awake, and then she has to sneak past me. And if I hear her, then she has to start all over again. And games like that, though, it's a little iffy because she's very competitive. She wants to win every single time.
Cheats?
I wish sometimes she does, but it's more of like, she's a 5-year-old girl and, there's like emotions that are happening. So the tears just like come down. I was like, no, you didn't hear me. And I was like, oh, okay. But again, it's like, it's going back to that, right? And then just like, and when I think about that, it's like, it's also teaching her lessons because she wants to be perfect. And because she's like so competitive, it's also what I think, I don't know if this is actually happening, but I feel like I'm also teaching her failure, right? Because that happens, right? That happens in business, that happens in life. If you can teach children those kinds of things while you're playing with them, like those kinds of life lessons, that's only going to benefit them, right? If they're getting a participation award all the time, or if they're you let them win all the time, they are learning something. They're learning that they're the God's, greatest gift. And if something doesn't happen for them that they think should happen, then, everything's crumbling down. They're going to do the things that they're going to do. So I push her a lot. I make sure that, she's learning that, she's one, not always right all the time, because, those conversations always go well. And two, that when she fails, and she's going to fail, like, okay, what do we do after? Like, how do you do it better next time? And so trying to do that while parenting horizontally, as well as like having quality time and everything else. That's, I don't know, some of the things that when I think about like what I do with her, those are some of the things we do.
So I'm hearing you talk a bit about blocking off time as a father the same way you would block off time for a meeting at work. And I can hear a lot of entrepreneurs being like, that's easy to say, but I can't, like, if work comes up, I got to work. So my question is, what would you say to those people who say they can respect their time that's blocked off for work, but they don't respect their time that's blocked off for family?
Yeah. I think at least for my personal experience, because Jenny and I are in business together, we are able to rely on each other. Right? If she really needs time away, she needs to go to the coffee shop, or she needs to go back to Cahoots at night, or whatever, then we kind of respect that for each other. If she needs to go, then I will stay, and she needs to go, and then vice versa. Like if I really need to get something done, then I will go. And I love working at Cahoots because I got my monitor and everything else. So it's a lot of that kind of teamwork and back and forth. And I believe even if you aren't in business with your partner, I believe that you can still do that. You're a team, right? Like a family is just not a family. You have to work together. And so when you think about things that, it's easy to you schedule time and do that, but you also, for me, I feel like you have to have the introspective of what do you want in your life. And we go through stages, right? We go through stages where, your business is everything. Then you have a family, and then your family is everything, but then you still have a business. Some people, their business is the life and blood of the things they want to do. And that's okay. I believe that's okay. If the business is taking over your life, even though you have a family, and if you're trying to be, a family person, but you're just not able to, but you're trying, that's all you can do, right? Like just know that, yes, maybe in the back of your mind, you're not spending the time that you need, but if you're just trying, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Right. Well, whatever your life situation is, that should be what what you should be heading toward. That's what you should tell yourself. Like, that's perfect. No matter any time that you can give to your family, even though your business is taking over your life, that's perfect. It's fine. As long as your child knows that you love them, that's all they really need, right? They don't need presents. Right. They don't need all those things. As long as they know, as long as you tell them, as long as the time that you have with them, that you are, giving them, you, and they know that. I believe that's just like any situation is perfect. As long as you're trying, as long as you're being intentional about it and everything else. It's perfect. For me, I'm just lucky, right? I'm lucky that I have a wife who's great, who respects me, and I respect her, and we respect our family time. And we've had to learn that, right? It's like 6 years of this. We're not perfect. We're not a perfect family. We don't spend all the time together. Our calendars, get mushed up and messed up. But we know within ourselves that we're giving it as much as we can give.
That's awesome.
And that's just how you have to think about it. Because again, you're gonna go crazy.
So considering all of that, we've got all these small business entrepreneurs listening, to the show. What would be 3 things you would tell them to do if they really want to focus in on being a better father, a better mother, and an entrepreneur at the same time? 3 really take home for them to do if they're feeling like they're out of balance.
Yeah. I think you go back into writing, why you doing it, right? We talk about this conversation all the time of, what is your why and then what is your how? And that may seem too high level, but it's really everything that you do is that those are your reasons. And so for me, I'm doing it because 1, I want to make impact in the community. 2, I want to have an impact in my daughter's life. And so everything I do, that's where it comes from.
Okay.
And so I could balance that.
Align to a purpose. What's 2?
2 is
now we're getting to the tweetable part, right?
Yeah, for sure. 2 is
the take homes.
Again, just going back, and because as a business owner or a someone who wants to be a business owner, or entrepreneur, or a startup founder, or whatever, learn that your time is valuable, right? You can't spend 8 hours of the day doing, one thing or doing all the little things or whatever, business is. It's just, schedule. yes, you may not have a team yet, and you may not be able to delegate all of those things. But that means that you really need to hone in on your process, and you really need to hone in on that schedule. Because if you don't have that, it's chaos. Like you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what purpose you're serving, you don't know what you may have a mission, you may have written it, but you're not heading toward there because you don't have a plan.
Yeah. And if I could interject real quick with something I've learned, the time blocks are critical. Yeah. People will all the time whittle away their day because they're like, I was working on this project and it took all day. The truth is, most projects, no matter what you think, they don't take as long as you think. What actually happened is you tried to make them perfect over 8 hours instead of making them good enough over 3.
Totally.
And then moving on to something else that is also important.
Okay, so we've got align to your purpose. If it's important to you, schedule it. And the third tip you would give.
Yeah, third tip kind of also aligns with what Derek just said, is just do it. Just start. And then it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to work 8 hours a day to make sure that messaging is right, or that logo's right, or the website looks great, or whatever. Just do it. Make sure if it's on if it's part of your task or if it's in your calendar, like just start. Don't think about it because that's where you get in the weeds. If you just do it, put in your calendar, I'm going to have family time. Put in your have that family time. So those are kind of just the 3 things, and just going back to you're never going to have enough time for family. You're never going to have enough time for your business, right? If you're a dad or a husband or whatever, if you're giving yourself as much as you can give to each and everything that's the important aspect of your life, then that's all you can give. And that's really hard to think about, and a really hard lesson to learn. And I speak from experience, obviously, and it's just really hard to do. But when you get that introspective and you really try to make sure that you're telling yourself that, like literally every single day, that's what you can do.
I think that's a great tip. So the 4th bonus tip was really just do your best. Right?
Always try your best.
There you go,
Exactly.
Tiger. You got it, champ.
That's a good one, though. I think sometimes it's easy to forget that one, especially if you're in that entrepreneurship mindset where you always are trying to, be competitive, be perfect. I think it's such an important thing to remember is that at the end of the day, I'm never going to have enough time to do all of what I want, period. So I'm going to do the best wherever I am. I think that's great.
Well, I think that we're just about out of time.
For all of you entrepreneurs out there, I would say whether you have kids or not, I don't know how you do it. But for the ones that have kids and are making it work or in balance, or you're probably always going to think you're a little out of balance, but I think you're probably nailing it. So keep going.
All right. Well,
thanks, everybody.
Odeen, thanks for joining us. This
you.
has been Small Biz Buzz. I've been Derek Harju.
Crystal Heuft.
And we will talk to you guys next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Small Biz Buzz. Please take a second to subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star rating. It helps keep the show going. And if you need a hand with growing your small business, head over to Keap.com. That's Keap.com and get started. More business, less work. That's Keap.